Hello and welcome back to the Renewables podcast. You will see we are at a one-to-one training for those of you who are familiar with our show. And we have got a couple of really special guests joining us. But before we speak to them, how are you doing, Sam?
I'm all right, considering it was the Oval Renewables Christmas party last night. I'm doing all right, actually. Yeah, there was a few shots that were flying around, but I managed to stay clear of most of that because I knew I had this really exciting chat. I had to try them, make sure they weren't poisoned. I had to do my bit. But no, it was a really good night, and yeah, I'm glad to be here. What about you? How are things with you?
Really good. We were also out enjoying ourselves last night. Mike more than the rest of us, which we've just heard pre-recording. But we've been joined by Malcolm Duncan, of course, Super Rod and Klein Tools into the European market, and Mike Jones, the happy electrician, which you guys are now collaborating on, and myself and Sam have been part of for a year. So this should be a really interesting conversation. But how are you doing, Mike?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Enjoyed the adventures in Driffield last night. Got to see the wonders and the sights and the people. So
It's all about the people in Driffield.
it's unique.
It is.
It's a unique experience.
It is, and you've had the pleasure of visiting and taking part in that yourself last night.
Yeah.
And you, Malcolm, how are you doing?
I'm good. Looking forward to today. Looking forward to chat with you guys and everything. Like last night was just great just to catch up with a lot of old faces and everything. And some of the new guys have come into the group and everything. It was just, I sort of walked back to the hotel last night and just thinking, yeah, we're actually doing something worthwhile here, something special. And just ignore whatever training we give, just the actual thought of bringing these people together and the offline conversations that we've had over the last year and everything like that. And you just seeing it in real life last night when we're out and everything. Today's a good day.
Yeah, I mean, talking about today, this is actually a meeting we've got at a one-to-one training for the happy electrician. You've got people visiting in your second cohort, and we're celebrating our full year of completion. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, it's probably an anniversary, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? What date was it?
Are the gifts coming up and everything?
Yeah. Don't rely on me to do the admin and order those things. Yeah, I got the books here on time.
Yeah, this is it. So we're a year in on our journey, myself and Sam, working with Malcolm and Mike, and we're kind of putting a day on here where we're going to run through a yet to be known surprise. We don't know what's coming. Mike and Malcolm do. Me and Sam do not.
Yeah.
But what is it that you're actually doing? Let's start with that. So what is the happy electrician?
I think it comes from, I suppose probably it's, if you go dial the clock right the way back, probably starts with some of my own experiences. My dad was an electrician. Okay, he wasn't in a job in electrician during the week. He worked in a factory as an electrician, but then make ends meet. He would also be doing work on a weekend and stuff like that and everything as well. And as a kid growing up, even though he was working super hard, you missed out, on a lot. Didn't really see him as a dad a lot of the time because he was just working so damn hard and everything. And I probably didn't realise at the time the impact that had on me. I did absolutely fine with it and everything. But then as fast forward 30, 40 years of life in the industry and everything, and I started working with Mike in my own business, just supporting and helping my management team to actually enjoy it as they grow in the business and not endure it. Because a lot of people, when they make that transition from, in effect, doing to managing, they take some of the same psychology to it. I've just got to work harder, because that's what got me to be that next level of my career. And that ends up quite unsustainable and causes a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure and everything. I've had the most amazing career, and I don't mean that in a bragging way, I just mean I've enjoyed it. I literally enjoy every single day I go to work, with my customers, my staff and everything, and I want the people who are following on and part of my team to enjoy that as well. So that's why we brought Mike on board. But I've also had this sort of culture of wanting to give a little bit back and just support. My customers are my friends. My customers have helped us build this business, and I think as a brand we're been very unique with our intimacy with our customers, and I could just start to sense a lot of pain, and probably started quite a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I was at one of the IEC's Powerballs, which is their industry event for raising a lot of money. And that particular year, there'd been, up to the night of the event, there'd been 36 suicides in the electrical industry to that year, up until say November, or whatever it was. And then actually they did this thing where they had these spots on the floor for commemorating everyone who had lost their life, and actually went to 37 because there was one literally just before the event. And again, I didn't realise probably the impact that had on me, and I'm just thinking this is unavoidable. This is avoidable. A little bit like the work we did on safe isolation. I can't. And as an individual, I can't sit back and watch things like that. That something could be done to avoid that, to reduce it. And I noticed a lot of chatter going on socials round about this time of the year, and it's anybody who's got a family, anybody, we're all pressured trying to get jobs finished up to Christmas. And then if you've got family, you've got to get the kids the Christmas presents, and there's all the pressure to give them the stuff that they want or need. And we could have a whole debate about what they really want and need is just a bit of love and attention off the family, and not some piece of plastic they've forgotten what it is in January. But that's a total other subject. And I could just feel the stress levels going up. And I said to Mike during the summer, I'd really like to take some of the learning that we've been doing with our own team and share that to a wider community and actually put something back. So we just put out like a random post and everything, is anybody feeling overwhelmed? Is your business running you as opposed to you running your business? And just put the response out there. And I know, men, construction are not the most people open to help. There's a lot of people suffer in silence, and just put it out there. And we're kind of a bit inundated with people who wanted to get involved. So we ended up with a small group, which you guys were part of. And to be honest, it was just a little bit of a trial. And initially we thought, we'll run the day, did some coaching and everything. And I think the clear message from the day kind of surprised us a little bit. Said, look, one day's not enough. We need to start a process here. And that's when we agreed to do like the monthly coaching sessions. And, you guys have been brilliant with us, because what it's allowed us to do is to build what the program's going to look like moving forward. And without that interaction with the first group, we wouldn't have had any idea. And I think that's a combination of the monthly coaching sessions we do now, and then the in-person thing like we're doing today, which next year we'll be doing 4 during the year. And that blended, because, we live in such an online world, but people crave that personal contact. Just look at the conversations we had last night. A lot of people are working sole traders, working on site on your own. It's lonely. Just, bringing a bunch of people together just to be able to, if they do nothing else but just actually realise they're not on their own, and the, balancing cash flow is, watch the WhatsApp group this week. And, one of the guys, they've done a load of work, a bit of emergency call out, and, they're ready to get paid 7 days after completion. It's all signed off in it. Oh, we're putting this job through the insurance. You'll have to wait, till the insurance money drops before we get paid. And, so they just put it. I said, what do I do? I said, you actually remind him your contract was to pay on completion. How you're funding it is kind of irrelevant to us. But to be fair, Mike and I had to do nothing, but the other people in the group supported each other, gave some examples, scripted. The bill's been paid. And that was the support that we're kind of trying to build.
Is that community you've got? We've seen it in our group, haven't we, Sam? Just chatting amongst ourselves, and you'll see it in future cohorts as well. But Mike, your side of that, are you kind of putting the structure in what you're delivering? So Malcolm's got the experience of the electrical industry, but it's fair to say you're not familiar with the electrical industry.
No, not directly. And my trade skills are poor. my missus is the one that puts the shelves up in our house, or I put them up and they're not straight. So my background is, I went into business many years ago. I had my first business after being in the military, and I didn't know anything about business. And I found it really interesting because I'd been in the military, I'd been to Afghanistan, I'd done some cool stuff. I'd lived on monasteries and monks in Thailand and Nepal. So I'd done some pretty cool things, and I'd opened this little business. It wasn't a big business at all. We had a little team there was about 5 of us in the team, 3 full-time staff, a couple of part-timers. So nothing big, but I was like the most stressed I've ever been in my life. And when COVID came along, I closed that business down, and I was basically borderline depressed. And I remember thinking to myself, how has this happened? Like, why am I so stressed about this relatively small thing compared to all the other things I've done in my life? Like, it doesn't make sense. And what I realised was, obviously, retrospectively looking back, is owning a business is uniquely psychologically challenging for a variety of reasons. You have to ask people for money, you have to deal with difficult customers, you have to do admin that a lot of people don't like doing, you have to like figure out how to price in a way that's profitable. Yeah, you have to put a structure around the business, and you have to be very clear on what you want from the business, and then you've got to get over the psychological challenges of the business. So it's a unique challenge. And so what I did is I went from that to building the structure that I needed, and training other businesses and management teams initially, like on how to not let the stress of business get to you and how to run it in an organised way, and use structure and mindset tips to not let it stress you. And then that led to me working with smaller businesses, which I really enjoyed, which then led to me working with Malcolm. And then Malcolm's like, I really want to do more of this for the electrical trade. So we looked at the industry, we looked at like what different people there are, from the small business owners like yourselves to the sole traders. And we identified, or Malcolm came up with the idea that I think we could do a community where we bring electricians together. They get to help each other out, but we help them with the structure and the mindset piece as well. So then you're solving a few issues, you're helping them get organised and planned, because it's hard to do that on your own. You're bringing them together so they've got a community of people to talk to. Because owning a business is also uniquely lonely, which we can talk about. And then giving them a community and giving them a structure so that it helps them actually enjoy the business, all of which we want as the overarching focus to help people be happy. Because what's the point in having a business if it's making you miserable? So yeah, that's how I've ended up with electricians via Malcolm.
Just to interject today's show, we want to speak to you about another awesome product from Proteus, and that is the Type B RCBO that they've just brought out, Sam. We saw that in person on the podcast we did with Proteus, and again, it's helping us as installers, isn't it?
Oh, it's unbelievable how they have managed to engineer it to fit it all within a single module. I remember fitting the ones that are about 3 or 4 modules wide. How they've managed to engineer that into one module is an absolute... I don't know how they've done it, but it's fantastic that they have.
They have, and it's bi-directional as well. So again, thinking of us as installers for those PV and EV systems. And that is why we are so proud and honoured to be sponsored by Proteus on the Renewables podcast. But let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I think it's a really good kind of mix, having both of you in there as well as having other electricians in that group chat. So you've got kind of a community that's kind of led by you two, offering advice, but also then all of us are offering advice to each other within that group as well. Because like you said, being in business can be quite lonely, and you can kind of internalize a lot of the stresses and think that you're not being, quote unquote successful because of something you're doing wrong, and it could be just that you need more time for things to more opportunities to come your way. You may need to tweak things, but when you are in that business on your own, and you're just literally on this little hamster wheel of trying to get jobs sold, trying to get jobs completed, trying to get jobs signed off, trying to get paid from jobs, and a lot of the time it's trying to pull out the time to actually like zoom above all the problems and look at it. And I think that's what me and Ollie were chatting about last night. Ollie from Zinc Electrical, because he was on our staff night out last night, and we were talking about it, and we were saying that it's one of the best things about this year of doing this is actually being forced to look above your companies and above the problems that you're facing, because you are literally attending either a call like we've had or an event like this. And I think the first time that dawned on us was when we came and did that first in-person kind of training or group session, and we actually found that there was a lot of people that were finding the exact same problems. There was maybe nuances within those problems that were different for each person, but we're all facing the problems of doing the accountancy or selling the jobs or not charging enough or
not getting the quotes out fast enough, or
all this sort of stuff.
It's just problems replace problems, isn't it?
And suddenly you had a group of people there that were actually a lot more similar than you walked in that room thinking that you were, because you looked at the other people in there, and for example, Ollie, again to use an example, he's just gone self-employed, whereas I've been going for 4 years, whatever it is. Mark, you've been going for longer than that, but actually we're all facing very similar problems. Other people might have it worse than others, but the problem is still fundamentally the same. And I think having that time and that guidance to look at that problem, and obviously with your help, Mike, to really focus down on what the actionable points are to go, right, this is on the first step of getting your quotes out faster, this is the first thing you need. Because a lot of us walk into a session like that and looking at our business going, I'm just not getting the quotes out fast enough. I need to be faster. And so you go, right, okay, in your mind you go, right, my goal now is to get quotes out faster. But you're like, right, well, what is fast? And I think that's what sessions like this have actually enabled us to do. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, Sam, you want to get quotes out faster, but what's fast for you? Is a week fast? Is a day fast? Is an hour fast? Yeah. Like, what do you need it to be? And suddenly when you have someone that's just teasing you on the point and going, right, well, okay, that's the first part, but let's draw it right the way down to what is fast and what would you need to do to get that quote out in a day rather than in a week. And I think that's one of the superpowers of this Happy Electrician thing is actually having a group that are pushing you to think about the problem far deeper than you would ever would do if it was just you on your little hamster wheel day in, day out.
I couldn't have put that any better. That's exactly my experience as well. And we spoke about this yesterday, Malcolm, when you came pre our trip out into Driffield, that taking that step to release your time from that hamster wheel to come to something like this is often that biggest leap of faith, because you already think, I'm too busy, I ain't got time to take a day out and go and speak about the business with a community like you guys. So it is forcing yourself to allocate that and go through the process, because we don't really get taught as tradespeople how to be business people. We go into the world of construction, it's really busy, it's hard graft, no one wants to pay you on time, and you just end up on that hamster wheel running as fast as you can, when there's ways you can structure your business to avoid those things and set it up better. And that's one of the things I've found from working with you guys over the last year, is to understand that there's processes you can utilise if you to go on that journey towards them. Where we're sat now is part of that as well. It wouldn't have happened. I've said it right from the beginning. We would not have this building and have done what we've done if we hadn't been part of that community. It just wouldn't have been a thing.
Oh, give me the warm tinglies.
I think one of the things that stands out, and Sam was talking about, you just really want to be successful and stuff like that. But I remember in the very first session, Sam spoke about you and your wife sitting down and just saying, your okay life, a good life, and your best life. And that is a very, very different thing. It's a very, very individual thing for every single business owner. And we've seen that within the group. Ollie won't mind, all of us nearly melted when he put in the WhatsApp group the video of him cycling back from just picking his son up from school. And that's not in a business plan. That's not in some great schematic, but that was so important to him. And, we've got kids and stuff like that, and we just think those are the moments that. And it's, I think one of the things we've tried to sort of focus on, because you see a lot of people, especially in the online space, we're going to build a 6 or 7 figure business and stuff. Not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants to be the biggest solar company in the UK. I just want to be able to get to my best life, and if that best life is having 12 weeks off a year so I can mirror my kids' school holidays and spend time with my family, that's what my best life looks like. And if that means that's a £1 million business or whatever, and it's actually, I think, getting into that mindset where you get comfortable with what success looks like for you. And I think, to be fair, and this is where people have asked me, why am I involved with that? I say, I learned so much, and that was what I learned from what you fed into the group about your personal experience.
And that's in the workbooks today, and that's one of the things that I love about it as well is like we've got a full day with a group today, and 2 parts of that day revolve around things that you guys have shared. So we're going to do the exercise on okay, good, great, and I've put in the book, like, this is inspired by Sam and his chat. One of the things that he shared. We've got a whole section where we're going to look at, and I've this is very cheesy, marketing, but I've bracketed Mark. Marketing with Mark, because like, obviously we can, like, it doesn't matter whether you're an electrician or an ice cream man or you run a care home or you're an accountant. Like, the fundamentals of business are pretty much the same, but obviously there's nuance, and we can teach and help guys zoom out and get the structure in place and think about the business in a different way. But then they've also got like this incredible community of people that are at different levels. So like and there's another part today where we'll look at what's the difference in goals and structure for a self-employed person or a what's the term we use? Sole trader. Yeah, I should probably know it. to a small business, and we'll look at like Sam, like we've put your org chart on, and the guys can look at it because you all just have different challenges now. It's like, well, somebody that's a sole trader might go, oh, it'd be amazing to have a team, but then we'll look at yours today, and I'm sure that you'll share, well, there's challenges of that as well. So you've got challenges of being a sole trader, challenges of being in a team. It's just business, and the great thing about having a community like this is that you guys can share with each other the nuance, and I think that's one of the things that's really blown me and Malcolm away, that how open and supportive the community is. We've got a lad called Dan. He's like just got no online presence, and he shared that. He's like, we looked at his business and he's talked about it. He's like, I don't generate enough of my own business. Well, okay, so you've got to sort your marketing out. And he put a question in the group along the lines of, where do I start getting myself online? And the quality of information that he got and the amount of support that he got, like there's no competition in there. People aren't going, oh, you're in the same trade, we don't want to help you. Everybody like bent over backwards to help him. I think if anything, he was overwhelmed with how much information was there. So I think that's incredible. Like just seeing people that are in the same trade that want to see each other succeed and ultimately be happy in their businesses. But yeah, I love the fact that we've got all these different levels and everybody shares. And one person looks at the other person, like Dan said to me in the car on the way here, and he won't mind me sharing. He goes, I feel like I'm so far behind all of those guys that sometimes I'm nervous to ask for help because I don't feel that I can put as much back. And I was like, all of those guys want to help you. Like they're all human beings and they get a genuine kick from seeing other people succeed by sharing the things that they've learned. So that's an incredible part of that community.
There's 2 points on there that I'd love to make on this, and one of them goes back to, my second point goes back to something that really hit me when we did that first in-person session. But the first point is that when me and Ollie were together last night and we're having a good moan about everything as we like to do, getting it off our chests.
We need to plan a section in today for moaning. Let's have a moan.
Yeah, we did plan to do an installer decompression session, didn't we, Mark, on the podcast at some point, which we'll have to do. But the first point was that I think when you are in the trade world on your own, you're not part of a group like this, or you don't have many necessarily colleagues out there, you're a sole trader, you can kind of think that the only way to get to success is more. And what me and Ollie were chatting about, and this is something that I actually recorded on my phone on the way down to my unit earlier on this week when I was going down there at like 10:30 at night to get stuff ready for the guys the next day. And it just came over me and I thought, I'm going to record this. I don't know if I'm going to post it, I'm going to record it. So I'll show you guys the video later on. But it was, when does more become just enough? When do you actually get to that point? And do you ever get to that point where you go, okay, now actually I think this is enough? Or do you actually more likely just get forced to that point where you go, you push and push, and something happens, you either burn yourself out, you maybe relationships break down, or all this other sort of stuff where you go, actually, enough was about 3 steps back because I had my happy life, my best life, I had everything that I wanted. So that was something me and Ollie were really discussing there. But leading on to that a little bit, Mike, if you are at the point where you still, your happy life or your best life, if we're going to call it, is a bit further on from where you are now, I think one of the biggest things that hit me was that like staged pyramid that you had on that first thing, where it was kind of like, do you want to just explain those steps where I've forgotten the exact steps, but it was. I know I was kind of middle.
Wrong, I'm going to give you a badge.
I honestly can't remember the exact names of them all, but it was where you're kind of setting up and start up.
They all begin with S.
Do they?
Yes, this the business owners tend to go through five steps as a business, and you go through like a journey. So the bottom of it is the startup, and you're all excited because you're creating your own thing. You're probably not making much money, but you don't care because you're getting freedom and fulfillment. Then you get to stability.
That was just on tip of my tongue.
Yeah, of course it was. And that's where you're like, okay, you've got a bit of a name for yourself, work's coming in, you might have a small team, and you're paying yourself. And it's nice because you're like, wow, I've gone from concept to actually having a life. But then you tend to get to this middle stage, which is called the slog. And this is where you realise that the business that you've created for freedom it's creating 5 jobs for you. You're doing admin. You go into your unit at 10 o'clock at night to get the job set for tomorrow. So it tends to be around 3+ years in. Could be longer or shorter. But you obviously go into business because you want your own freedom, and then you realise, whether you're a sole trader or you've got a team, you're like, I'm doing a lot of work here, and you might not be taking any holiday. You might not be spending time with your family, and you start to look at your business with resentment. It's a very normal phase of business to go through, because most of us don't go into business minded, if we're honest. I didn't. So that's what you call the slog phase, and you're like, what's going on here? I built this thing to give me a good life, and I feel like I'm busier and more stressed, and probably got less money than I ever did before. So then you go into the slog phase, and then you can stay there for too long and then just burn out, or have a business that you don't like and be very stressed. Or you can move into what we'd call the systems phase, where you get more structured with your business, and you're like, okay, how does this business work for me? And the only way that you make that happen is by planning, by being organised, by being intentional. Because a lot of it, like as you said there, like, when does more become enough? If you're not strategic and you're not clear on what you want from your business, what can happen as well is your business is constantly getting bigger, but it's not actually getting more profitable. You're just reacting it bigger. You're like, I need somebody over there because I'm really stressed with that. So you're constantly taking on more overheads and more people. You're never actually making any more money. And then like you said, you're just getting bigger for the sake of it, but you're not making any more money. You're not having a better quality of life. You don't even want it to be that big. So to get out of that slog phase, you have to get very intentional, and you have to be sensibly selfish about your business, don't you? You have to think, well, this has got to work for me as well. One of the things that I noticed, and I know Malcolm will attest to this as well, is that I don't know, obviously I've been more exposed to electricians now, so I don't know if I'm a bit blinded. I've got the blinkers on just because I'm working so much with electricians, but from what I can see, electricians are very nice people, and they want to really look after customers, and there's this stress between when a customer needs help really quick and actually being able to charge for that appropriately and trying to look after everybody. And then what happens is we end up doing loads of work, low priced or free, or not charging for call outs, or working till 7 o'clock at night because you want to go and fix that thing for that person. And all of this is great, but if you can't charge around it, what happens is you basically become a charity. You're doing loads of work and giving up your personal life to try and please everybody else. And it's like, it's very unnatural for the human brain to prioritize itself. Obviously we've got a survival mechanism, but we're kind of hardwired to not be selfish. So we want to look after people, but you've got to be sensibly selfish in your business, and that feels very unnatural. And I think
that value piece is an important part as well, because I mean we're having a discussion in the various groups this week about how we prepare a quotation, and normally it gets down to sort of bills, materials, stuff like that. But I started asking the question, actually, what's behind a quotation? What does it take for you to actually complete a quotation, just to submit it and then ultimately win the work and follow it through? You generally have to do a site survey, or solo it might be digital, but there's a time allocation there where you've got to survey the site, scope out the works, draw up a plan that's going to conform with current regulation, that's going to match the customer's needs. You've got to source the equipment that's in line with the budget needs. Like we were looking around your facility yesterday, Mark, and you were saying, like, I forgot the name of the batteries, but we looked at 2 ranges of batteries. One was a very budget entry level. One was the absolute Rolls Royce thing you would install on your own home if you were given a choice and everything. But there's horses for courses with each one. There's all that process before you commit pen to paper, but I never see that on a quote. And I think if we're talking about the value we're delivering, and I've got 2 quotes in front of me, both of them for around about the same amount, but one's actually detailing the fact that I'm going to do the site survey to get to this stage. I've sourced the materials here. I've got a premium and a budget option as far as materials concerned. I've ensured that the full installation will comply with current regulations. I'm going to contact the power providers to schedule. What was the paperwork we were talking about?
G99s.
G99s. I'm going to deal. So but we never detail that on a quotation. But if I've got 2 quotes for the same job, but then I've actually got a clear view to all the work that you're doing. Okay, you're not actually physically putting a cost against that, as a client, I'm a lot more comfortable. I think, well, wait, what's that subtly telling me? It's telling me, yes, my job's going to be certified. It is done to the current regulations. They've given me two options, an economy range and a more features installation, etc., etc. I don't think as an industry we're great. We just want to. You spoke about getting quotes done fast, Sam. And I think you've put a process in place to make them done quicker. But then I think now the next stage of development is actually to look at the quality and the impact of those quotes, and think, are we telling the full story, or is there a chunk of hidden work that we're actually, in effect, keeping secret from the client? And I think as a client, I would actually take some comfort in understanding the research that you've done to get to giving me a price. And, it's things like that, and it's that natural evolution, because I think, as Mike said, I think, in the industry, I call a lot of electrical contractors, whether it be in renewables or standalone, accidental entrepreneurs. Because they've done their apprentice, they found themselves out of work, I've got a few bills to pay, I'll start doing a few jobs, and as long as it matches what I was earning as a wage, and that's how an awful lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, the very first person I mentored was a guy called Tom Walker. He's a contractor down in South Wales, and he'd done his apprenticeship, just set up on his own. I got him up to my house to do some work. It was a friend of a friend. And Tom won't mind me telling this story. He did this first week's work, and he sent me the bill. I looked at the bill, and I phoned him. I said, Tom, can you come and see me? I said, oh, is everything okay? I said, yeah, I just need to talk to you about the bill. Oh, sorry, Mark, if I've overcharged, immediately on defence mechanism. I said, no, I said, look, I'm not going to discuss it on the phone. Come up. And so I sat him down at the kitchen table. I said, right, you've got your bill. He said, yeah. I said, look, yeah, I can shave 100 quid off it. And I said, no. I said, just be quiet. Just answer me some questions. I said, you got your van outside. I said, how much is it costing you? Oh, no, I've paid for the van. I said, where's your money coming for your next van? I don't need one. That one's going to be good for a few years yet. I said, you're going to need another van. I said, in a couple of years' time, you're proud that's paid for. So the only way the next one's going to be paid for if you start putting some money away. I said, but let's talking about the running of the van, your fuel, your insurance, all that sort of thing. And then, you've got your NIC membership. How much does that cost you? X. And so I just went through. I said, so you're at my house, 4 days. I said, just walk me through the days. I'd call in the wholesaler. I'd pick up the bits, stuff like that. So I said, you might have been on site 6 hours a day, but you worked 8. Yeah. And so I went through it all with him and pointed out he's working about £2 an hour, something like that. I said, look, I'm going to pay this first invoice. I said, because that's the pain you're going to feel. But next week invoice is going to look very different. And he's still, he recalls that story with his boys now. He's got a team of 4, real tight business, got some real good contracts around the South Wales area, and he still recounts back to that day. But I think as an industry, our default position is to be actually afraid to talk about the value that we bring to the table.